a question I get asked on occasion. Do I believe in free will or determinism? Or some form of that question. So the first thing I want to say about this is, if the question's coming from a place of intellectual curiosity, I really have very little interest in engaging it because it'll just give the mind more to chew on. If a person is coming from a philosophical place, intellectualizing spirituality or the awakening process, and trying to pre-think or predetermine how it will be afterward, they're just using their own intellect to keep themselves asleep. So if I sense it's coming from that place, I tend to give a soft answer or just sort of redirect the questioner. Because in the cognitive world, everything is theoretical. Everything is relative. So you could discuss this with yourself, with others, or argue about it all day long and really never get anywhere. There are people who have been arguing about this for years, decades, centuries, and the arguments just get reinforced on both sides, and it's all intellectual. Until you see through the intellectual self, which is also an illusion, then everything related to that you won't recognize as illusory is used to preserve the illusion of self, the illusion of separate self. So before that initial shift in identity, answering these types of questions really has little utility and could be counterproductive when it comes to awakening, in my experience. Now, when it comes to deeper stage realization, if somebody's asking from a place of looking into their own direct experience and trying to clarify what is actually going on, has some insight and has seen through the sense of a separate self, I might give a different type of answer. It may depend on the situation, the person, the conditions, but an answer like this is reasonably accurate. That is, if you ask me what my immediate experience is, I would have to say that it's neither a sense of choice or choice making, certainly as a choice maker. So free will kind of goes out the window. Nor is it the sense that things are predetermined, or that predetermination is the way it is. And these are for different reasons. First is the sense of being a choice maker, or the sense of having free will. Again, the key word there, having, like there's someone who has that. That's based on separation. When the sense of separation is eradicated, or the illusion of separation is dissolved, there's nothing apart from anything else to make a decision and act upon other people, objects, situations, events. This is the way the mind thinks about choice, or at least in my experience, that's how it was. That's how the mind saw it. And any question trying to get to the bottom of that was just trying to get a toehold so that the mind can feel like, or the ego or the self can feel like it's a distinct agent apart from and acting on other agents or the external environment. When that illusion is collapsed, the sense of being an agent, of having free will as a separate individual, is seen to be completely illusory and not even interesting. It's not even a big enough deal to negate it, because it's so much more enjoyable to just experience what is, but not as a self, a separate self, but as what is. That why would you even expend the effort to try to concoct that internal reality again to be a separate self acting upon other things and tell yourself you have free will? So at least in this way of describing things, the sense of space or the sense of separation is what leads to the misunderstanding about free will. So a more accurate way of saying it, although this isn't perfect either, is that decisions can be made and will can even be exerted, but not by anything apart from anything else. You could say that the environment makes a decision, or even that decisions make decisions. The decision is deciding. The conditions just come forth as they are, and a decision is made. But there's no personal ownership of any decision like that. And it doesn't feel like the decision affects an individual personally in a way that it does not affect the external environment. It's all interconnected. Now, from the cognitive approach, as I described at the beginning of the video, it would seem like the opposite of free will is determinism. Like things have been already determined and they're just going to carry out a certain way, regardless of what you want or don't want to happen. This is illusory for a different reason, a different axis of distortion. That is the distortion of time. Predetermination, even if it's not deliberately stated, when you really look at what it means that some decision or some process is in motion or some set of conditions that existed before this right here has determined how this is going to be. But you can see you actually have to believe in time to experience that. I would also say you can't really directly experience it. You can only think about it. But if you look deeply into this present moment, into this presence, how could predetermination make any sense without the pre? Without imagining something from the past. So you could say this moment is causeless. And that's experientially the case. It's also experientially the case that that's far more obvious and far more real and far more fundamental and natural than the way the mind would try to put it together, like, oh, well, I have to think about what the pre-existing causes were or whether there was intelligence behind those causes, etc. This is all thought. In direct experience or immediate experience or just this, none of that is here. So it's quite magical, it's quite paradoxical, but where no space, which just means natural exertion of this moment as it is, everything just coming forth as it is, in and of itself, not from a separate cause, and not in time, where that meets timelessness, eternity, things are very clear. It's so clear that there's no need anymore to formulate an inherent view or a frame of reference at all about the way things are. So now you're seeing clearly because things are no specific way. It's indeterminate. But indeterminacy doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean chaos. It means just this: perfectly orchestrated, perfectly synchronized, nothing left out, nothing to seek, nothing right or wrong, no need to solve any philosophical dilemma, because there's peace. And when there's peace, there's no reason to go wandering around in the mind anymore.